Yeah. Anyway, so, okay, so what's going on? Last night, we fixed a bug having to do with structs that were not yet really ready to have their type inferred, thinking that they were. And that's a good bug to fix because that could cause lots of weird problems. However, fixing that bug made this situation worse. This thing that I said last night. So we had this thing, I actually changed it a little bit this morning. But this thing, when you have a thing that looks like a procedure call that actually instantiates a new struct with parameters, we don't really wait for that struct to be ready to be inferred. We just assert that we could continue it. This exact code that you're seeing doesn't exactly make sense because I was in the middle of pasting it. But if you remember from yesterday, anyway, the place all this code kicks in is when you have something like one of these, which is bucket array here is a struct, but it's a polymorphic struct. So it takes arguments. And if you don't supply those arguments, then this isn't a concrete type that you can use yet because this is a completely compiled language, right? This isn't an interpreted language, and all types must be known at compile time. So what this really means is, you know, like in C++, you would say, I don't know what you do some template thing with like, whatever, I'm not even going to, you would put some template arguments and then say this is bucket array of those two arguments and so forth. But we don't require people to do that. And so because we don't require people to do that, we need to do some syntactic transformations internal to the compiler to turn this into the equivalent of that. Now, the reason that we have to do that in the particular way that we have to do it is because the pattern matching in the type checker doesn't work as well as, or it's done in a way that I thought would be fine like 2 years ago, and it turns out to add a lot of complications. So at some point, I actually want to change the way the whole pattern matcher works. But that's a very disruptive thing to the compiler, and what I want to do before that is just get this working the way it's working now, and fix a bunch of bugs, and then maybe do one or two other big cleanups that'll then help when we go do that big refactor. It'll help it be less painful. That would be an interesting, like, it probably will take a whole weekend to do that. Maybe I'll try to stream the whole thing to change the way the type checker works. Anyway, so I just want to get this working again. So now, since I, quote, fixed, unquote, that thing last night, now I can't compile Sokoban at all. And the reason I can't is because that struct definitely knows it's not ready to infer. And so this whole thing returns without instantiating it now. And that's not good. So what I need to do is make this a multi-phase reentrant thing, and that's a pain in the butt. And but it's good to be forced to do that because it also forces me to think about what is going to be the next design for this sort of thing, this cooperative understanding the dependencies of what needs to be done before you can perform any particular specific compiler operation. Okay, maybe that was enough of an intro. I don't know. Does any of that make sense? Do people have questions about any of that? Anyone? Nobody has questions. Oh, there's a big question. It's completely off topic. Well, maybe not completely. Currently working on your bachelor thesis. You plan to include custom allocators, as well as what else comes to your mind is absolutely essential when it comes to memory management in games. Well, it's not just about having a custom allocator. It's about not having your data scattered all over the place. So the object-oriented way of programming encourages people to think of things as small individual units, right? And that results in slow code. So the way that you write fast code is to group your data into large collections that can be processed in the same way whenever that's possible, right? And so if you go see some of Mike Acton's talks, that's what those are about. So if you get that, then that's probably the most important thing. My mouse is running out of battery. I'm going to plug it in. Yeah, I might turn off the eye tracking if it actually decreases comprehension. I don't know. I feel like if people are just watching this spot hover around the screen the whole time, then maybe it's not helpful. Okay. So what are the steps that we have to do? The steps are: 1, generate the Autopoly call for the struct type. 2, actually, one, how about ensure struct is inferred first? 2, then we generate the Autopoly call. Three, ensure Autopoly call is inferred. That's kind of it, right? I mean, these might break down into sub-steps. So let's do step 1 first. So all of this only should happen if it's a struct, I think. So okay. Someone says OO and cache optimization are not mutually exclusive. Yeah, they kind of are, honestly. Yeah, they are. Have I heard about Prime Mover? Yeah, I haven't played it. It looked too Vlambeer to be a good Zach-like, but I don't know. It could be good. Okay. Well, I'm not exactly sure that this is the right check, but this is fine. But when we yield, we have to this is a thing, assuming that we decide to do things this way, which is not yet a foregone conclusion, then we won't have to undo this thing that we just did, because we can move where this happens to before we set these things. But I don't want to split this into more complex logic. Yeah. Okay. So if the struct is not ready yet, we yield. Otherwise, we get the ident. We get the inst. We did step 1. We do the autopoly. If call, well, then we'll set this flag. And we'll say inst generated autopoly call equals call. Okay, so now that's just going to make it easier to find, so we don't have a stupid hack. We're going to make a new variable that stores this. Okay, so then if we do that in yield, we infer the call and yield. And then whoops. This gets put there by this, but maybe okay. So well, okay, well, at the very least, I need to make this field. Okay. So we make that, we do that. I feel like this is really not going to work the way that I would like it to, and something bad is going to happen, but who knows. First, let's get it to even compile. Oh. The whole reason we put this here is this. Yeah. Shouldn't you return after yield? Yield has a return built in. It's just a macro that has a return. Okay. Now let's watch this crash again. Yep. All right. Well, let's see. All right. Let's see where it's crashing. We're compiling Sokoban. Assertion failed. Inst generated auto. Really? Oh, it's because... Oh my God, I forgot something. This guy... Okay, so one of the things we can do is copy things. For example, when we want to polymorph a procedure or whatever. So this guy is copied from someone else, and we copied the flag, and we didn't copy this. And I believe the policy that I landed on was that we should copy the Autopoly. Right, so yeah, this was copied from another thing. So well, we got to go into copier. Is that what I called it? Generated Autopoly call, yeah. All right. Now let's see where we crash. Oh, we printed out some kind of error. Let's see what that was. Undeclared identifier. What? Oh no, this is all in Ignacio's stuff. We may not be up to date. So Ignacio has this build skip project generator thing that I don't want to have anything to do with, but that he does. So now that's causing me problems. Whilst I'm in the middle of this. But it's probably because I just wasn't updated. Let me just rebuild the compiler because we did update the sort. Oh, no changes. All right. Okay, now is when I send an angry email saying, what the hell? Okay. Okay. So this is a weird thing where, okay, we're adding these to the namespace. But for some reason, so this should be correct. If we have identifiers that aren't declared yet, but there are still run directives pending, if there's still anything pending, then we shouldn't do under. This has nothing to do with what I was just working on, at least in principle. Maybe it actually does. Like, maybe what's happening is OS get username is not running for some reason. Oops. Like, what happens if I do this? Yeah, okay. It's really unhappy. That's what's going on. So I think this thing that I did last stream with structs may not be the right way to do it. Instead of doing that, I can change my check here in this new code. All right. Yeah, so basically what happened is like all these structs, I don't know if this is just every polymorphic struct or every single struct is refusing to compile. So that's not what you want. That is not what you want. Okay. So what we will do is up here. So we're going to do that. Okay, so it was this queue here. No. Didn't I add a depend somewhere? Let's look at parser. Wait, did I check? Wait, what? Where did I put this? I thought I put a depend in here. But I clearly didn't. Or I checked it in, and it was a giant disaster. I don't want to pause this stream and look at last night's stream to figure out what I did. Would it have gone... Well... Does anyone remember where I put this dependency? This is the stuff I'm working on now. That's the bug that somebody told me about. Oh, I should have checked that one in. Oh, it's here. It's here, 9361. Or 9399 in mine. Did I typo something? Oh. All right. Now we watch it crash again. Probably. But sometimes, eventually it works. Okay, what are we doing wrong now? Well, oh, because we may not have a constants block, by the way. Duh. Oh boy, it's really going now. 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 Wow. We compiled Sokoban. All right. So let's make a release build of the compiler. Make sure that compiles Sokoban. We'll make sure it compiles the tests, which it didn't last night. And then we'll see if it actually addresses bug 168. Okay, so that works. That's great. Let's see if this happens. Uh-oh. It's taking a long time. In fact, it's taking so long, I feel like it's infinite looping on something. Like that test that I just put in, the well, let's take a look at that. Now, actually, before we go do all the tests, let's look at bug 168, because that's going to be simpler. Like the tests have a lot of code, and it might be, since this was the thing we were trying to address, if there's a bug in our addressing of it, we may find it here. And indeed, it seems this is infinite looping also. So this is good because it's a much simpler thing to look at. Okay. But that didn't infinite loop. Oh, because here it's the no jobs, right? No. Oh, I'm running it on Sokoban. And that's not infinite looping, it's just taking a long time because it's the debug build of the compiler. We need to speed up the debug build of the compiler. I believe we fixed bug 168. Or that part. The part of it that was preventing us from just importing bucket array is fixed. So that's progress there. But we really want to be able to do the whole thing. Okay, we can do that. Can we instantiate a bucket locator? Yes. Can we do our for loop? Well, let's make sure it's really doing something. Yeah, so that's good. This is good progress. That yielding thing that I put in seems to be working. It's working well enough to make this happen, which is great. It is, however, causing a problem in the tests. So now we gotta investigate that. Hopefully it's something easy. I have no idea what would cause this to infinite loop. Let's take out our... Okay, well, wherever it's looping. I'm going to assume it's... This is... Yep. Yep. Okay. So what even is this? This is a polymorphed matrix. That's weird. It's got a oh, wait. Let's see where this is. Where in the source code are we? Line 548 of old bugs. Where is old bugs? Okay, this is from one of the demos I did a long time ago. We've got a matrix. Oh, it's got a body text. I wonder if... That shouldn't affect the ability of these to infer, though. The fact that this has a body text is a little bit... All right. So well, okay, this is funny. So this guy is inferred. I bet we're not letting these pass infer unless the body text passes infer. I don't know. This guy's actually inferred. So maybe instead of checking what pipe they're in, the whole pipe thing, I don't know how much I like it, honestly. Okay. Let's see if that's true for everybody, if everybody's actually inferred. Well, let's look at the queued first. It's in infer pipe. It's got no dependencies. So like, why would it not ever leave the infer pipe? That's what I want to know. I mean, are we just infinite looping here? So we yield, and we return from here. We yield upon that land. Oh, snap. So here's what's happening. We're creating this struct when we try to polymorph a new procedure. But if we don't get to infer it, we roll back. We roll back the polymorph. Because we say it's not ready. That might not be the right thing to do. This is all getting very complicated. So the thing is, even though those are inferred, because they're being like instantaneously created, they're not flowing through the pipes. So they're never going to be... They're never going to be past pipe infer because, or until they're validated, which they won't be till after this time. So like, all of this I would like to find a better way to do. I don't know if that actually helped. Oh, come on. I don't know if it's infinite looping or if it's just being slow. It's just being slow. All right, well, this may be check-inable, which is good because then I can take a break, get breakfast, and then later today, we could do a very, very serious... There's a big refactor that I want to do that's not scary like these, except it's scary in terms of how much pain it will be. Just because it involves editing things that cross-cut the entire compiler in a serious way. But it's something I've wanted to do for a while. And as we do all these more serious things, or we're getting further and further down the list of like cleanups that I want to do. And so it just means, oh, that's not good. Okay, if I compile this one with no jobs, it's fine. If I compile it with jobs, it's not always fine. Okay, we're not done. We're not done. Okay, so, okay, seed 442 has this problem. I mean, we pass all the tests, but I just don't feel comfortable checking this in. You stopped working on some hobby project because you want to wait for this. Is this a good idea? Don't expect to be able to use this for half a year, in less than half a year, no, because we're going to release to like a smaller group of people and then slowly expand. So I would not wait. Like if you want to do hobby projects, just do them and work on your stuff. And then when this is ready, it'll be ready. Okay. What errors were we getting? Did not find an identifier. That search was so slow. All right. Wait, what? Oh, I forgot the seed. Seed 442. So all of this kind of thing happens because we don't have header files or order of declaration. So sometimes we have bugs involving things not yet being ready to compile when we try to compile them. And that's what that yielding stuff is about. And so, oh, this is the wrong breakpoint. Somebody is not really, oh, what? Debug. It works okay in the debug compiler with seed 442. Oh God. Okay, well, let's try a different seed. Oh, did we just not recompile release? No, we did. Okay, I'm starting to not like this. This is not making me happy. This is, okay, there we go. Seed 127. It's probably just easier to have whatever race condition this is in the release compiler. Yeah, okay. In every other text field, double click selects the word, assholes. Like, even here, double click selects a word. But in those fields, it selects the whole line. Thank you, Microsoft, for continually improving Visual Studio. Wait, why isn't it? Oh, because we're running release. What does the compiler use randomness for? Well, it's like I said. In a real generalized compile, it's threaded, and so things are non-deterministic anyway, right? And so to simulate the kinds of problems that you can have when that's happening, we have synthetically induced randomness to the order in which things are processed. So that when we detect a bug like this, now we can reproduce it every time by randomly perturbing things the same way, right? So here we're just simulating pieces of the compilation retiring in some order that's causing problems. Did I not? Seed 127, bug 168. How hard can this be? Now it worked. Come on. Okay, just not every time. Just not the first time. What? What? Maybe the debugger is just too slow. This shouldn't depend on speed in any way. Oh, I didn't say dash no jobs, did I? Yeah, I did. Well, we got to keep looking for one that does it with no jobs. There we go. Computers are hard. All right, it's doing it every time. No jobs, seed 770. No jobs, seed 770. There we go. Sometimes these techniques actually work. Okay, we did not find an identifier named whatever in the constants block of this lambda. Probably because Well, let's look at the error message. Bucket array, of course, because that's what this thing is testing. No, it won't be a lambda. It'll be a struct. Did not find identifier name type in the constants block of the struct. Which may mean we're just pointing at the wrong one. I had this problem before where we were pointing at the original and not the copy. Wait, why are we looking in lambda's constants? Oh, because it's fudge. Yeah, okay. We're trying to use the wrong name here. If our So what this autopoly thing does is it looks at these arguments and then it makes that have simple names like this and it makes these slightly mangled names. So autopoly type 0 is an argument that we add to the procedure that corresponds to this argument of the struct. Now this thing is confused. It's looking for a thing named type in the constants block of the procedure, which is not. It should be looking for autopoly type 0. Right? So we need to ask, why did a match with the name type? So this thing bake is one of the matches that we got from the type checking pattern matcher, right? It's got this name type. You know, it's binding it to a particular type definition. So this, if we step up a few times, is it above here even? Yeah, it's passed in here. Okay, so we have this thing called solutions is what's renamed value bakes later. So for auto bakes, right? It's not an auto bake. It happened from solve for matches. So we're going to break there. That might not be the best, but let's actually not break there. Let's go back and we're going to break down in the stack where we actually add this to the array. So this one is going to be this may be add matches who adds it to the array, and we're going to break at match.ident s is equal to this. Okay, I apparently left a breakpoint there. Okay. This is the one that's causing the problem. unless I goofed my reproducibility. So, right, we're polymorph solving. Okay, this is all as expected. I'm getting hungry. I'm getting hungry, people. Wanted is polymorphic. That's what this flag means. It's a pointer to a struct, probably. Yeah, it's a pointer to a struct. That struct is bucket array, no surprise. That struct has in its constants block 2 members. It should always have 2 members because you can't really add or remove more. And I just wish the way Visual Studio drew this was more reasonable. This is just like such garbage to look through here. I'm sure nobody can follow like any of this. The only reason I can is because I've been staring at it for years. Like, it's such a bad debugger. Okay, so this is the first thing in the constants block, and the identifier is type, which is not what we want, right? I said we want that autopoly thing to be here, so we're passing the wrong thing in at the top, which is good. I'm just, you know, it could have been going wrong some other unexpected way. Yeah. So this guy did not get polymorphed from anything else, but from him 4 other things came out. So yeah. Why are we checking? Why is this type wanted? It's in the inputs. Why is it in the inputs? Because we pass them down 2 levels of procedure. Let me just, I want to know what procedure I'm looking at. So source lambda is line 148 of bucket array. Okay. 140, did I delete a line here? Okay. So it is this procedure. There's only one argument, which is correct. So the thing is, why is that argument not, had this autopoly process happen to it correctly, is the question. Some pattern of weird yielding probably caused us to not drop the inferred type in the right place or something. Let's check it. Let's check it. So this should be our type instantiation. args.data0 should be, oh, it's an ident. Wait, what? Oh, this is the arguments to the procedure. That's type given, right? Type wanted, right, is this. Okay, so the type instantiation is a pointer to inst flag 16, which I think means autopoly declarations, right? Yes, OX10 is 16. So well, we got a generated autopoly call. That's our new field that we made to stash the thing. Okay. So first of all, after all this is done, the value should be the generated struct, right? So this guy should be a polymorph result, and he's not. He's not. He is not. So either he doesn't get put there correctly by the autopoly process, or he gets overwritten later. And either of those we can check. So okay. So this all works correctly because this gets set. And so we want to know, once we get here, what's going on. So let's ask what that is, and we'll set that here. Oh. Now, of course, I can't just drag this down by 2 lines. I guess somebody said I can edit the line number. Such a garbage. All right. You used to just be able to drag those down, and then they rewrote Visual Studio and decided... What? So that breakpoint is not ever happening. Now I don't know whether I can trust the breakpoint system or what. Okay, let's break on the inst and not the call, because it could be this call is coming from somewhere else. Or something non-intuitive is happening. Maybe do Autopoly does something that I forgot. I don't know. Okay, so here or who had this proc type? Okay, this guy had the type inst, and that's whoops, that guy's serial number was this. So now we want to go back here, and we're just going to say what happens when we get here. Okay. Oh, I forgot about the pointer too. This is not the right guy. We want this guy. We don't want the pointer to this guy. We want this guy. Okay. Okay. So we do this call. How is that different from this? This is 4363. It's a different serial number. That's weird. Are we wrong about this, or is this like, oh, I bet it's a copy. Right, it's a copy from the polymorph, which is why it has a different serial number and why it's not coming from here. So my original idea was that well, I'm not sure why the copy would be incorrect, especially under various conditions. So, okay, this guy needs to yield. Oh. We're not, remember this thing that I did up here about set this stuff to null if you yield? We're not doing that down here. So if we yield, we're never going to come back, right? So we're not done inferring this, but if I hit F5, that breakpoint will not fire again. The later breakpoint will fire, but this one up here won't fire because we only come here to infer this. And if we have a type in the slot, we think we're inferred. Yeah. Okay, that was dumb. That was dumb. So, well, remember that I said that we should handle this better if we do it the right way. Actually, what's going on is if we do any of this stuff, if we go into this block at all, well, not true. Not true. Oh boy. Okay, I'm going to do the super stupid thing first. We're going to get so stupid here. Whoops. We're going to get so stupid. We're just going to put this in front of every yield here and make sure it works. And then we're going to clean that up. We might even check it in before we clean it up, because the thing is the cleanup will be a little bit scary. I don't know why when I was writing this I didn't think to do that every time, but I didn't think to do that every time. Now what happens? It worked with seed 770. Let's see if it works with release build. Oops. All right. Great. Can we build Sokoban? Yes. Can we run the tests? Apparently so. So I'm going to check this in, and then we're going to try to fix that ugliness. All right. So fix bug 168 and other questionable things involving. Any questions about this so far? Could you make a defer that check for yield and does the cleanup? Possibly. It's just, I'd rather not do it that way. It would be weird because you can't check the return value that you're returning. So ideally you would say like, oh, for returning false, do this. My preference would be to make a version of yield that takes the thing to clear out, but then it's like, well, what if you forget to use that version? So I think the right thing to do is to split this logic. So here's what we do. So this stuff here is only really supposed to be for if we're not doing all these things. Right? So I want to break this up a little more. Okay, this is useless right here. So it's really just these two lines that set the type of the thing. I could just put these in two places, honestly. And in fact, I do this down here anyway. So really, I could just put this here and say here. Okay, first of all, I'm going to leave the CRUD in for the yield and just make sure that moving this down there didn't break anything. Which I don't think it should have, but let's see. Okay, so now we get rid of these. And I believe it should be okay. I believe that was easier than I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be scary. Cranking through the tests, All right, well, I'm going to have some breakfast for lunch and take a small break from streaming. And then, unless I get a better idea, we're going to do another stream where we dive into the really crazy tear apart the entire program refactor that I want to do. So any questions about what we did or why anyone would ever want to program in their life when it just consists of doing these things all day? Anything like that? What does the yield macro do exactly? It just sets a slot somewhere that says, here's the data structure we're waiting on to be ready, and then it returns false. It doesn't do, it's not a tricky thread or fiber thing like you might think from the name. It just returns false. We can go look at that. Well, we have an assertion. We call sleep yield, and then we return false. And sleep yield, you know, sets some data structures about what we're waiting for. When and in which time zone? I'm in California, unfortunately. I used to like being from California. I was born in California. But man, San Francisco is a dump these days. It's a bad place. I don't know what to think about that. Yeah. No, we're minus 7 or minus 8, depending on, or is it minus 8 or minus 9, depending on what the daylight time is right now, right? So, oh, yeah, we're minus 7. Okay. Minus 7. Yeah, San Francisco is a total dump now. It's been getting worse and worse every year. It's just a bad place now. How does the compiler know where to resume processing after yield? Well, it's just going to, next time we try to reinfer that thing, we just come in at the top of that same function that I was just editing. We just come back in here. We're inferring a type instantiation, and then we do all this stuff. This is not necessary anymore. Let's get rid of that for readability. Let's get rid of that for minor readability. So we just come in here, and then we just start doing all this stuff. So for the case that we're talking about, we have a type valued expression, because that's what the identifier for the polymorphic type is a type valued expression. So then we just start doing all this logic again, and we get here pretty fast. Why is it a dump, the housing crisis, the echo chamber? I don't know exactly. The housing thing is part of it, but not really. Like, just things are... I don't know. I think it's just poorly run. It's a poorly run place. And so it's dirty and nasty everywhere. Like, you can't, there's not like a nice part of town anymore, for example, like at all, anywhere. There's just like, you know, garbage and poop on the sidewalks everywhere. And like, you know, of course there's homeless people all over the place, which is not great. Which maybe has somewhat to do with the housing crisis, but also somewhat not. I don't know. Like, it doesn't feel like a safe place. So if you were like a young woman or somebody who's not physically ready to defend yourself against random crazy homeless people who might attack you, then you probably don't want to walk around San Francisco that much, except in certain very careful neighborhoods, right? It's just not good. Yeah. I don't actually, the thing is, all the interesting things that I like to do are here, so I don't strictly want to move, but as someone who's lived in San Francisco most of the time since, well, I've lived in the Bay Area since 1989. With the exception of just a few years where I moved to other places. And I've just watched it continually get worse. It's just really bad. And it's just, you know, it's just what happens when things are not well run, in my opinion. Have I tried living in the South Bay? Only for a few months way back in the 90s. I don't think I would want to live there now because it's far. If I lived anywhere, I would at least move to the East Bay, which is a little bit nicer than San Francisco. The problem is my office is in San Francisco. I'm not in the office today. I'm working from home, but you know, I go into the office a lot, and having a long commute distance is not necessarily helpful. Tommy lived here for a little bit, not that long. Not that long. Would I ever want to live in the East Coast? I did live in New York for 1 year and I left because I didn't like it. Time to enter a gated community. I would seriously consider that, honestly. But, you know, yeah. YouTube videos from Stanley Roberts. I haven't seen those. It's just, you know, it doesn't feel like a good place to live, is all I'm saying. And, you know, like, there's way more technology companies here than ever before, paying way more taxes than ever before. And the money seems to be spent in a way that's ineffective. We'll put it that way. Yeah, programming. Let's go back to programming. Are there any programming questions? Is it important for me to stay in a technology-oriented place? Not really. No. Any programming questions before I go do brecca lunch? Brecca lunch. Brecca lunch. What does an if do? Any non-trolling programming questions? See, brunch is an actual special separate meal. I'm just going to have breakfast at approximately lunchtime. That's different. And I better go soon before it gets crowded. So I'm going to sign off. I don't know when the next demo will be, when it's ready. In the meantime, I'm making the compiler better. So the reason there haven't been demos is because we've been working on quality of the compiler rather than more features. So if I were to demo things, it would be just showing the same things that already exist. It's just they work better now and they're more robust. So you know, that's not that exciting. But someday soon, we'll do a demo. All right. I'll be back on in a little while. See you guys later. Thanks for stopping by.